Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be looking at some routine maintenance on a 2012 Honda Foreman TRX500 electronic shift. We're going to be covering oil change, air filter, spark plug, and front rear differential. So the first thing you want to do is take off the plastic covers on the left and right side of the four-wheeler. They're just put in there with some rubber grommets. They pop right out. Remove those so you have access to the engine. So you'll need a 5/8 spark plug socket. Just back that out with your hand. And then grab the new one, start it with your hand, and then tighten it down with the 5/8. Our next thing we'll look at is the oil filter, changing the oil in the oil filter. So you got to get underneath it and access the oil drain bolt. Should be a 17 millimeter socket. Put that on. You need to back off the drain bolt, let it all drain out. Make sure you start the four-wheeler before you do this. Let it run for a few minutes and warm up. It really helps get the old oil out.
Hi.
Hi.
The oil filter is located on the right side of the four-wheeler, and there'll be 3 bolts here. I believe they're 9 millimeter. All you need to do is back those out and then gently remove that cover. So a couple things with the oil filter. There's a small O-ring. You'll have a spring inside there. You'll have the oil filter. There's a gasket on the oil filter cover. And then there's another small O-ring where the oil goes into the oil pump. Here's the part number for the little small O-ring that you're going to need. It's 91303 HA00004, and you'll need a small little pick set to be able to get those O-rings out easily. Just slide that small O-ring out, and be careful, don't tear up anything in there. Grab the new, wipe it down, clean it up. Grab the new O-ring, pop it back in there. Make sure that spring is in there right before you get ready for the oil filter. All right, for the oil filter cover, put on a new gasket as well. That's part number 15412 HM5A10. And again, the part numbers will be down in the description for this video. Take that new O-ring and gently put it back on the oil filter cover. And now you're ready to grab the oil filter and put that in. So pay attention to the oil filter. It has stamped in one side towards filter cover. It has a little rubber gasket right there. Just pop that on there. And then the metal side goes, the all metal side goes in on that spring that's in there. So just kind of pay attention to that as you put it back in. Put your oil cover back on. Grab your 9mm bolts and get them tightened back down. Alright, make sure before you put your drain bolt back in, the 17mm drain bolt from the bottom, make sure you have a new crush washer to put on it, and then crawl back underneath it. Wipe down the area where the threads are. Try to remove as much dirt as possible, and run that 17mm bolt back up into where the oil drains from. Alright, next thing you want to do is remove the oil dipstick. It's on the driver's side of the four-wheeler, the left side. Remove that dipstick, clean off around there so you don't have any chance of dirt getting down in there. Alright, you're going to run 3.2 quarts of 10W30 Honda oil back into the four-wheeler. Once you have all 3 quarts of oil back in there, then of course you'll want to run the four-wheeler for a little bit and then check your level. When you're checking the level, the oil level on a Honda, you don't thread the dipstick back in. You just set it back in to check the level. Alright, jumping into the air filter, you make sure you take the seat off. Right here there's 4 clips that hold the air filter cover box in. Just simply pop that loose, remove the cover out of your way. And this is an oil filter, so that a lot of people assimilate it to like a K&N air filter. It actually has to be washed and cleaned and then re-oiled if you want to reuse it. It's not a dry filter. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to remove the clamp. And then inside the oil filter is a metal canister that also helps filter out any debris. So simply slide off the, you gotta take that ring all the way off, and that makes it a lot easier. And then the rubber fitting around the air filter will slide right out. And grab your new air filter, open it up out of the bag. It comes oiled, ready to go. And then slide the air filter back up over the metal canister. The wire that you see there in the way is it's actually a battery tender wire. So when the four-wheeler is sitting for a while, I just have it hooked up so to keep the battery fresh. Alright, you want to get the clamp on the air filter tightened down. Now you're ready to take the cover and put it back on and lock down all 4 clamps. And that completes the air filter change. Alright, jumping into the rear differential. You have a 12mm bolt, 3 12mm bolts that cover the protective skid plate under the rear differential, and then a 10mm for the oil check bolt, and then a 17mm for the oil fill bolt. First thing you're going to want to do is take off there's 3 12mm bolts. Pop those out to remove the skid cover. If you don't have a skid cover, obviously you'll skip the step. Next thing you do is take a 10mm drain bolt. The camera doesn't show right here, sorry. Pop loose that 10mm drain bolt, let all that old differential fluid drain out. Honda recommends doing this every 100 hours for optimal performance on your gears and extended life. Remove the 17 millimeter bolt from the top. This is where we'll refill the gear oil and let all the old gear oil drain out. Alright, for the gear oil you want to use the Honda shaft drive oil Hypoid gear oil SAE 80W90, and you can pick that up at any local Honda ATV service center. Alright, the 17 millimeter bolt's removed, and you can replace your 10 millimeter drain bolt at the bottom once the gear oil is done draining, and then simply fill it back up from the top. You want to fill in the fill hole. You want to fill with the gear oil until you see it coming out the oil check bolt hole. You'll see here, you start filling it up, and as soon as it starts coming out, then it's at the level that it needs to be. You need 2 bottles of this gear oil to complete both front and rear differential change. Once you see it dripping out, you can wipe that area clean, and then go ahead and drop back in the 10 millimeter bolt for the check bolt hole. Once that's done, you can replace the skid plate cover under the rear differential. Moving into the front differential, it's a little bit easier than the rear, even though it's a little bit harder to access. You don't have to remove the skid plate or anything. You just have to take the 17 millimeter bolt off right here, where you will fill, and then in the bottom is a 10 millimeter. If you use a deep socket, it makes it a lot easier. So once you have the 17 millimeter bolt removed, you will then go underneath the four-wheeler. Once you're underneath the four-wheeler, you use a 10 millimeter deep socket, remove the drain bolt, and start letting all the gear oil drain out. Once it's all drained out, you put a funnel back in the 17 millimeter fill hole and fill it up. To reset the oil light, you have to leave the key off in the off position. You will push the reset button and hold it. Turn the key to the on position, but don't start the four-wheeler, and hold it for 5 seconds, and it will remove the oil change light. You can shut the key off, turn it back on, and the oil light will be gone. Again, Honda recommends doing this every 100 hours.